Hi, welcome to a new Plugin Guru video. My name is John Skippy Limcool. Hands together, head bowed. Welcome. So glad to see you. Hey, so this is a video talking about how to get your images into Unify. When you call it up, it has these cool default images. If you call it patches and libraries, it has images in the background. You can actually set Unify up to have your own image in the background of a library. So when you call up the patches, it will show you a photo of your choice. It takes a little work. There's a second half of this video that gets into the nitty-gritty details because there's two layers to this. There's one where you make a default, and it's just one image, and that image is now used for whatever is in that library as the background image that you see. There's another deeper level where every single patch can be told to have a specific image assigned to it. For those of you that just want to know the flow and don't know computers super deeply, right? So we're starting at the basics of this stuff. So if you go to the settings, go to the paths and data folder, and then you hit the open on the main data folder, and this will show you the main folder at the top level for Unify. These are all the folders with all the things that Unify accesses. There's presets and the palettes and MIDI bank files, all sorts of things that are in here, as well as the libraries folder. And this is where all of the different libraries are. So if you double click this, you'll see that it opens up whatever folders you have currently inside of Unify. This is the list of them, right? And each one of these, if you open it, has a number of folders inside of it. Now, there's a structure to these folders. If you go to the standard library, you'll see like most of the structure of all how complex it can get. Audio files, there's impulse responses, key zones, media. That's the important one we want to talk about because that's how you get images into a library. MIDI files, patches, that's all the patches, and then samples. That's where all the samples are found that are inside of the library. So let's say that we want to have the GeForce map library. When I call this up right now, if I go over here and I say GeForce map library and I call up patches, they're calling up the default background Unify Studio images, right? And we'll talk about this in the second half of this video. There are the ability to choose different images and you can lock with the safety pin. We cover that in a few minutes. But I want to change this really quickly so that instead of being a default studio type background, I want to use my own image for this library. This is on a per library basis. So each library can have its own image if you want. I want this image right here, ocean sky, that I created. This is a photo I took. And I'm going to give you a folder called media as a download. There will be a download link in this video that you can download. And then you have this folder. And so if you right click on any patch in this library, that you go reveal in the Finder, here's the patches folder, right? We were talking about the hierarchy, and patches is one folder, media is another folder. So if we go here to the Unified GeForce map, right here, it shows us only the patches folder. If you just take this media folder and copy this over, if you now go back to here and play this, it's going to put that image as the default. And I'll show you why it does it so you understand. So we were in the patches folder. You need to go up one level from the patches folder. Inside of my Mac, I can see the layout down here because I asked it to show me this. The settings you can set up in the Finder. So I can just select this. The other way to get here, if you're not familiar with getting around, is like we did. Go back over here, data paths, click open. Here's the libraries folder. And now we see the map folder right here, right? So when you get to the map folder, right here is where the patches folder is. And this is where we put this media folder next to the patches folder, not inside of it, but next to it. And then let me show you how this works. There is a folder that says images, and then inside of there is this image, oceansky.jpg. And then there's a text file. And this text file is what makes it all work. This is saying default, in quotes, some spaces, and then in quotes, you have images, which is the name of the folder that this image is in, and then a slash, and then oceansky.jpg. So if I wanted to Right now it's working so that when I go to here, I'm playing this and it's working and it's calling up this image. Now, if I want, let's just do right click, go to the Finder, go up one level so that we're in the library. I'm going to put a different image in here. I have a photo over here of my dog. This is a photo of my dog, Athena. We're going to play with this in the second half of this video. There's Athena. If I want that to be my background image, here's the name. So I'm going to say, copy this whole name, including the .jpg, so that way I can put this into the images folder. I can go to this text file, and all I have to do is go to the ocean sky, paste, and make sure I have a quote at the end, right? Because I don't want to get rid of that, and then save. So I've updated the text file. So now when I go to the library and I call up a patch, there's my dog. So whatever image you want to put in here, all you have to do is go to the Finder and put into the images folder the image you want to use, and then change the text file to whatever you want it to be to match the name. So if I go, oh, I think I like Ocean Sky better than the dog. So copy this whole name, open back up the text file, go over here and say, instead of my photo, I can just paste this and save. Now, this sets it back, so now it's showing the ocean. So this media folder, working with this ocean sky image, will be a download you can download from the video description. So you can get this. All you have to do, go any library that you want to put this into. Let's go back to the libraries folder. Let's say I also wanted the same thing inside of the unified library for SoftTube. All I have to do is drag this folder in here, just like that. Now when I go to the SoftTube library and I call up a patch, boom, it also has this image in the background. So it's that easy to get the default. Now, if you want to get more elaborate, watch the rest of this video and we'll get into the parts of assigning of an image to 5 different patches, okay? So hope this helps. Thanks for your support. All right, I'm out of here. For this library we're going to build, I have a picture of my dog. I have a picture of my daughter in Hawaii looking out at the ocean. I've got some cool pictures that I've taken with drones, pictures of wildflowers in the Columbia River Gorge up in Oregon. If you want to use your own images, one thing to point out also is that a 16:9 aspect ratio seems to work really good, because that's about what this is when you're viewing it this way. So that'd be like a 1920 by 1080. It works with JPEGs and with PNG files. PNG files taking up more memory, so JPEG works to just be a little bit less memory. There's a lot of flexibility here, but there are some rules to get it to work. Say you want to have your own images, because it's personalization. Unify is all about creativity and setting up an environment where you feel the most creative. And if looking at your own photos of family, something from the film project you're working on, a concept image for like the song that gives you the idea behind the song, all that can be fed into Unify really easily, but I got to show you how to do it, okay? To start with, let's start with the basics. And we're on the standard library. Every time I hit the init button, the nuclear button down here, it's going to reset Unify to a new image. And these images are stored inside of Unify. It actually has this bank of a whole bunch of images, and it has a set pool that it cycles between of Unify in different studio environments, on our planet, on others, right? If you hit the play icon right here, this takes you to the play mode where you don't see the layers anymore, right? And you have some controls down here for the image itself. Right here is the actual pool of images, and the top 4 rows are photos I've taken. Below that are public domain images, and then below that are the studio images that we've created that you can choose from. You can use one of these. Say I wanted to use that. If I want that to be my image that I use all the time and that it doesn't change, all I have to do is hit the pin, and now it's locked. As I change patches, it's locked at that image. We also have an overlay that you can turn on, and you can change the color of the overlay. You can change the opacity if you want it just to be barely there and you want it to be like this really cool purple, you know, like that. If I want it to be like that all the time, all I have to do is hit set as default color. That locks it into place. So now when I call up every patch, it stays that way. Now, Unify can go much farther than this. If you go to some of our libraries, you'll notice, like, say, Mega Magic Guitars Volume 5. This is one I did while working on Unify 2, so I knew this was coming. And so I designed this where we'll turn these off. If you leave them on, it bypasses the images, even if they're assigned and saved to the patch. But if I turn these off, and I call up the same patch again, it's going to call up images that I took for this library. And some of these images get more creative as you go down here to the BPM guitars and stuff that get into, you know, dreamy things. And let's go like Desert Dreamer and right. So it has all these images assigned to the patches. How do you set them up? What do you do to do that? So let's do this. I am going to set this to all libraries, and I have favorited 4 patches. I'll pick one more to be the 5th one. I'm not sure which one's going to be. Because I have 5 images that we can assign to these patches but I've got to put them into their own library first. Right now, these 2 are inside the standard library. I thought this would be cool for some songs. And then these are from the Unified Spitfire Symphony Discover library. This is all of the string patches, the cellos, the basses, the violas, the violins. It's a free library from Spitfire Audio. This is a free library that we've made where we've gone through, and in fact, if we go, I can show you really quickly, turn off the favorites. We have 78 patches in here that call up all the separate elements of this library. And then at the end of the list, you have these things that call up like all the brass. Here's all the brass staccatos. That's my 5th library. I'm going to have that for my film project I'm working on, right? So I need to make a library. How do you do that? I'm going to go up here to the Save button down here, hit Save, and where it says library name, you can click this and say New Library. And give this a name. This is the name that will be in the directory list. And so I want this to show up at the top of the list. And so I'm going to use a Shift underline so it makes a little line. And then let's call this Film Project HZ1. It's my first chance to work with Hans Zimmer, for example. And I'm working on this thing. So I say confirm. There I have my library. I can go Save As and save, and it has saved this patch, made a new library, given it its name. When I look at the list, it's at the very top of the list. By putting a little underscore, that puts it at the top of the list. Now, I don't have any images. When I call this up, I think it's probably going to forget that it was assigned to that image that was tied to Spitfire Audio, right? It's gone. So if you right-click on this and say Reveal in the Finder, this shows you the structure. This is in the Patches folder. It says Patches. And if I want, I can click down here on my Mac, and I can go to this right here. And here's where I see the Patches folder. I need to make a new folder called Media, M-E-D-I-A. And inside of here, I need to open this up, and I need to say, make a folder inside of the Media folder. So I'm going to say New Folder and call this Images. Now, I have these 5 images here, right? I'm going to bring them over so you can see them. I have my photo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I've given them names so that I can drag those over, and I'm going to put those into the Images folder. And then these guys can go away because they're now in here. Now I need to go to a text editor. And so I'm going to call up text edit, and I'm going to say I need a new document. And what I need to do is I need to say default, D-E-F-A-U-L-T, space, 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 space. I don't want any periods, just spaces. And then I wanted to go images, because that's the name of the folder. So you put a quote, images, slash, what was it? My photo 01.jpg. There. Now, by saying default, this means all of the patches in this library that I make will use this image as its default image. And it's the photo of my dog, so that's nice. So we're going to go save, and we call it links, L-I-N-K-S, .text. and we go to Unify, to the libraries, to the film project, into the media folder. So the same folder that has the images folder right there, you just save a text file. So I now have a text file here that says links, and I have the folder, and inside of here are the images. Now when I go to this patch and I call it up, it's my dog. And if I wanted to be another one of the images, I could go back to the desktop and I could call up the links file. And instead of being photos number 1, I could say number 4, save. And then whatever number 4 is, which is this image, now that is what's going to show up as my default image for every patch here. So let's just go back to all libraries, go to favorites. I want to have Angels Dance in here. So I'm going to go save. Now you can give it a little bit different name. You could say project or your initials or something at the end of the name so you know it's not a duplicate of an existing patch when you show all libraries. The library to save to, go over here and choose your project and go save as and save. There it is. Go back to all libraries. Let's say truth is truth. I want to save this as well. So go save this to this folder, and I'm going to say JL at the end of the names. And I want the film project HZ1, right? So I go save as, save. And let's go back to all libraries. We want to have, let's see, if we go all libraries, I want to go here really quick. I want to make sure that this brass ensemble staccato, I didn't put my initials at the end, so I'm going to go save. I'm going to go JL, and I'm going to click update, because that way it updates the file. So let's do this. Go back to all libraries. We need to have 5 patches. So we want to have the full strings, and notice that the image changed to show the default of this library that this sound comes from. Even though I'm looking at all libraries, it's from the library, the Unified Spitfire Discover library. So we go save, change this to the film project HZ, and let's add JL at the end of the name and save. There it is. None of these have been favorited, so they don't have the favorite, so it disappears. Let's go all libraries. Finally, the full string spiccato. And let's go save. And let's add JL at the end of the name. Save this to the film project folder. Save as. Save. Okay, so I can turn off this, and I now have 5 patches in my film project folder that I'm going to be using for this project. You can take your time building. I'm doing this really quickly because I have put it all in one short video, right? But you find the sounds as you're going through all the libraries, save them to the folders that you want to have access to in the future for projects, things that you're working on. Right now, each one of these that I call up, because that default is set to number 4, every patch is just going to call up that same image. And that might be all you want. So that they all have the same image, you're done. You can take it one step further, and that's to use the names here to be the names to call up actually different images. This is what I did inside of Maybe Magic Guitars Volume 5. When I call up one of these patches, it's calling up a different image on every patch. And if you want to see why, you can right-click to reveal this library in the Finder. And let's just go up to this library layer. And if you go to Media, and you go to the links file, every library has a file named links.txt if it has custom images. And if you double-click this, you will see that I spent a lot of time going through every patch and assigning it to an image. So I have the 5 photos here. I open up links.txt. To make this so it's not the default, what you do is instead of where it says default, that's where you insert the name of the patch as it shows up in Unify. And so inside of Unify, I'm going to go to the project HZ, and I'm going to go save, and I'm going to just copy this name, copy, cancel, and then I can go here to the text file, and right here I can delete this and say, quote, the name of the patch, quote, just some spaces, it doesn't matter how many spaces, and then the name of the image that I want. And let's say I want to use 1 for the first one, just to keep things a little bit simpler. Then let's go to truth is truth, and we're going to go save, copy this name exactly as it shows up inside of Unify. Again, it's not what it shows up as on the desktop, because the desktop name and the name in Unify can be different. PCs and stuff, certain characters you can't use in a name. So we made it so that you can use those characters in the patch names. But when you go to save it, it changes. Actually, if you watch and see, if you put slashes and you go to save a patch, it will change those to be underlined spaces and things like that to make sure that it's safe on a PC, because PCs freak out if you give it any sort of name beyond the normal, right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go down here. This is another name that I need. I'm going to copy this whole line and paste it. And I actually want to do this 5 times total, right? And then this is the new name for the next patch. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to go up here and paste. And right here where it says my photo, I'm going to say 2. And let's actually do this. Let's go to, this one will be 3, 4, 5. I've done this before. It's not that hard. So go save the file here. Let's go copy over here the name. Cancel. Go to the third item in the list and paste. And then I can paste that again because I can see the name over here is just full string and then spiccato. S-P-I-C-A-T-T-O. And then the last one is the full brass ensemble. So I go to the save, copy the whole name as it is in Unify, go back to the text editor and paste right here. Make sure you have quotes at the beginning and end of each of the patch names, and then separate quote at the beginning and the ending of each of these images / and then the name of the photo, the image that you're going to use, and whether it's a .jpg or a .png, we can work with either of those. All I have to do now, let's clean up just a little bit, get rid of the space. You can have spaces, you don't need to clean it up, but I did that. So now when I go to each one of these patches, 1, 2, I'm going to go to 3. 3 doesn't work. I actually figured out why it doesn't work. I added an extra L at the end of the name when I was making the text file. Delete the extra L so that it matches the name here. Now when I call this up, it will call up image 3, 4, and image 5. So I now have custom images assigned to each patch. So as you can see, I could have it this way, or I could have it up here if I say default default. No large caps for the default, by the way. Even if it wants to give you a large cap, just say no, you can't do that. And no period. These processors, man, they just drive you crazy because they want to try to help you wherever they can. And then say I wanted it to be the image of my kid in Maui. So I go like this and go like that and paste. So if you make a default, you'll want to make sure that you don't have, let's see, copy and delete. Now save this. And now when I go to the library, all the patches will now call up just Hannah in Maui with the sunset. So you can have it be simple with just a single image. That be setting up as a default like this. Let's make this bigger so you can see exactly what it is. But if I want, I could make it where it's more complex. And now it's a specific image per patch. So now I save this. And now when I go to each of these patches, it's going to call up an image that's assigned to that patch. So that's how you get your images into Unify and how you make a library so that you can start making your own favorite patches. Just really importantly, make sure you give different names to the patches when you save them, even if it's a .jl. This way, if I was to go to all libraries, this is next to the original one, but there's a JL by the name, so I know that it's different. Give it a name that ties it to the library that you're working on or project or something like that. You know, it's all good. But there you go. Hope this helps. See you in the next video.